Welcome to the Hue Virtual Chat. I'm going to open the doors right away because I'm kind of in a kerfuffle here, but we're ready for a fantastic show. Like I said, we're still in code red, and well, I guess we're a lot better than our folks down south of the border. Oh my goodness. Hello, everybody. Hi, Kirsten. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Linda. Good to see you. I love that puppy shot on Instagram, and I love that whole thing. And I have a brand new guest I want to welcome to the Hue Virtual Chat, Jennifer. Jennifer, we just can't see you right now, or at least I can't. Can you see them, lady? See your ladies?
It looks like she's still connecting,
Okay.
Tracy.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a very, very funny intro today. So I start my whole little spiel and I don't have my mic on. So I just said, this is what happens when every day is like Groundhog Day and you become very complacent. And oh my goodness. Oh, wow. So there you go. It has happened. Oh my goodness. I was saying like Linda has such an adorable shot of her puppy, but what she has written underneath is so true. And I mean, I kind of reflected even as thinking about children, right? And how you love them as babies and everything like that. And but you can hardly wait for them to grow up. And well, careful what you wish for. But Linda, it was a great post on Instagram. I really loved it. Can they all hear me? Oh, there's Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. You're on mute. Unmute yourself. Oh, so welcome to the Hue Virtual Chat, Jen. Rana's, I think, going to be joining us a little bit later. She's again running late. And Jennifer, we're going to start off with you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. And yes, we want to talk all things what are happening south of the border, privilege, and especially what it means being in this second lockdown or third lockdown or whatever number we're at for our local businesses. So there's been a little bit of a backlash, and I don't blame them. It's been such a long time. So take it away, Jennifer.
Where to start? First of all, thank God I'm not on mute anymore. Uh, where to start? I'm Jennifer Snyder. I am the president of Doyenne Financial. After almost 20 years in the financial services business as an advisor, I decided to do myself a favor and stop working for other companies and create my own. And so that's what I did right as the pandemic was starting. And so, I've always had wonderful timing in my life. It seems to have worked out in the end with lots of different moves that I've made. But in the moment, as everything was shutting down, I got the approval to be open for business. So that was interesting. This uh, I don't know where you want to start the what's going on in the U.S. The pandemic. Hey, Rana.
Pandemic. Yeah, forget that. No.
Yeah, right. Like, it's actually one of the things that I really do want to talk about is I love what is happening, and some of it is just superficial, and we recognize that, right? Because we've seen these kinds of things before. But after last Wednesday, we're starting to see some people backing away from those that invaded the Capitol. But more importantly, you're starting to see money being drawn. We're not going to support this person, this group with our money anymore. Companies saying we do not accept this level of behavior. Now, I understand my thoughts on it are that we have to start somewhere. It is never acceptable to allow this kind of behavior whenever you have one group of people who is uh, who is trying to speak for another.
Mhm.
That, I mean, we have to speak up against that, or at least to speak up for ourselves. And I think that that is really important. But the fact that some corporations are at least being mindful enough to say, we don't want to be in their camp. That's a good first step. What we need to do as citizens, as people, in my right, I know this happened in the U.S., but let's face it, there's a lot of dribble over the border, and I think what we need to be very, very mindful of when we're talking to our MLAs, to our MPs, to the companies that we support is these are the kinds of things that we find acceptable, and these are the kinds of things we do not find acceptable. And they can pick their sides from there. But I think they have to be aware, and we have to make them aware. Of what is going to be okay and where our stance is. I think, getting somebody elected is step one. Step two, from a from a citizenry standpoint, is keeping them accountable to, and not necessarily to one line. Because you can't say to somebody, you said this, and so you always have to do that. Sometimes circumstances change, and you have to allow them to change their mind. That's what thinking people do. But I think if we continue to have these conversations back and forth, um, it makes us better as citizens. It makes our leaders better, and I think it also gives guidance to corporations, to governments.
So do you think this will definitely have an effect up in Canada then, Jennifer? Like, and especially in your line of work, the economy too as well. And what really kind of scares me is that there's already, I mean, talk of uprisals or like riots in all 50 states. And even to have that kind of information and seeing the army, the FBI, CIA, all of these people like on guard, it's even scary for us, just north of the border.
It is, and it's kind of heart palpitations when you read things like that, because you think, the people are going to get hurt. Uh, there's so much anger, and you can just feel that. Um, so it is worrisome, because let's face it, we do all take stands on what side of the line we're on when it comes to U.S. Anything.
Mhm.
But the interesting thing about the U.S. is that this particular situation is not new. Um, right after slavery was abolished, there were biracial governments already. They had kind of, I'm not going to say they had moved past it, but they had, I think they thought they had moved past it. So they had both black and white people in a government, and then they had a bloody and violent uh, uprising, which led to Jim Crow. And Jim Crow lasted a long time. You could argue we're in the second era of that now, but so that is what happened the last time something like this happened. And so what we need to, that's why the fear is legitimate,
Mhm.
because we know how dangerous, we know what a slippery slope this is when we allow people to be violent to one another, and you let that go. Then at some point you say to yourself, it's just like, doing away with the facts that like we have for the last 4 years. At some point you say to yourself, well, okay, we're going to have to try grasping at facts now. Okay, which facts are we going to be uh, clinging to? And so you get yourself into a weird position, but you have to draw a line somewhere. And I really hope that we don't see that level of violence um, in Canada, because I know that there are people in Canada that feel very strongly about what is happening, and that, uh, rights are being taken away. I would argue those rights were taken in the first place. So, you have to um, uh, be careful about that. But whenever one group of people oppresses against another, and then says, "Well, you're when there's backlash, uh, you can't say that your rights are being taken away because you know." Uh, it's a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? Well, wrong springs to mind, but so there is that. The big problem, I think, in Canada right now with this kind of climate, with people not getting violent on social media, but certainly giving their opinions about whether companies should be open or closed, whether we need to wear masks or not, whether the government is doing enough, and that's provincial as well as federal. Um, that is it's difficult because from my perspective, um, there are times when I think to myself, when I was going to the yoga studio, for example, my favorite yoga studio, who I love, Moto Yoga, and I was going there, and they were uber careful. They were so safe, in my opinion. It was one of the places that I felt the most safe. And to see them shut down at a time like this, to me, doesn't make any logical sense. The demographic, the level of safety that they're practicing. Part of me says it doesn't make good intuitive sense, and because we need to have businesses continuing to run, and some of them just don't operate the same on a virtual scale. And then there's the people who are stuck at home, and I'm talking to people all of the time, some of them that are real extroverts, and they are suffering. And some of what is happening right now, I'm not a psychiatrist by any stretch, but you could argue is due to the fact that people are shrinking inward. They're not getting that level of discourse. This is obviously a great thing to be able to have, but you get those physical cues from people um, when you're wrong, or when you're having a debate, like a good, healthy, respectful debate. I mean, not a shouting match, because nobody needs that in their lives. So I worry about the psychological impact for a lot of people, and that's whether they're retired or working or what have you. And I think that there are ways that we can implement lockdowns in a better way than we are now. I mean, in talking to some of the doctors, uh, there are similarities. There are demographics that are more at risk, and I'm talking age wise specifically. So if they're allowing children to go back to school, for example, we have to be able to bring businesses back to some degree, and if they're serving a younger demographic, maybe that's a place. But I don't really see, the problem is that I don't really see any discourse. That
No.
we're getting very little information.
Well,
And yeah, right. So if we were getting more information, we're generally rule followers. We're okay with it. We'll stand in queue. We'll wait till the vaccine is available. Most of us will do that. But tell us when it's coming. Tell us how long we're going to have to wait. Tell us not only what the rules are, but why are they there? Give us the rationale. And you know what? Probably 75-80% will follow the rules, no problem.
now,
But I think
do you think that they really don't have the answers, Jennifer? So, or they don't want to say, just in case there's repercussions and they're wrong, and it's kind of like, well, you haven't said anything and nothing seems to be really working well through all of this.
Yeah, but I would agree that that may be part of it. If you don't know the answer, sometimes, and I've said this to so many people, sometimes I don't know is the answer. It's okay to not know the answer, but here's the thing, go find it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Find something, find some middle ground, because locking an entire country down makes zero sense.
Yeah. Well, we're going to open it up to, I'm going to welcome Rana. There's Rana there. Hey, you've got your friend on, Jen. Hey, fill us in. How did the two of you get together? How are you,
How do we know each other, Jen?
Well, we met before you even ran for political
Yeah.
office.
How? When? I'm trying to think of like what the reasoning would be.
Well,
How did we cross paths? Elba.
Well, it's
Always
all
Elba.
roads lead to
The whole
Elba.
world is Elba. Yeah. For those who do not know Elba Hay, she is, I don't know, the mentor, the leader, the love of everybody's life. She's just this
The force.
beautiful, yeah, she's just this force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So if you're a young woman and you have the pleasure and the luck of kind of getting to be under her wing, you'll go very far in life, because she's a tough, no BS type of woman there. So
well, you joined in a little bit, but you're listening to what Jennifer was saying. You always like to talk about privilege, so that kind of got into the conversation too. Wearing a mask, don't wear a mask. Have that big family gathering because it's holidays and we miss each other, and and then there's the other rest of us that have been isolating, have been doing everything as we're told, not really with any clear answers or even knowing that it is the right thing.
right.
So where do you stand now?
It's really funny. I think I got into like a definitely not a yelling match, because I don't do that anymore.
Because you're just yelling to yourself.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. So just in terms of like the masks and everything else, right? The one point Jen made was, yes, we need answers. So when you don't have answers, or they're unable, and I can't say, to be blunt, I don't know if it's an unwillingness, unableness, and frankly, we're in unknown territory, right? Like we can't. It's so challenging that you really don't even know what to believe. I saw this crazy conspiracy theory going around yesterday. I'm just like, please stop on my feed. Like, I just don't want to see it. But ultimately, if we were going to just kind of funnel it down, there are rules in place. We are a law-abiding group of people and country. Whether or not we like it or don't, those are after discussions, unfortunately, for now, because in that process, many people are going to lose their mental health. I don't even know what to say. I'm worried people are going to start losing lives, right? Because people are struggling, right? Businesses are going under. You saw that guy who had to open this tattoo shop. I forgot what the name is, but I watched him, and it was heartbreaking. He was just like, do I pay the fine or do I feed my kids? That's not unheard of. Those are very common situations people are in right now. So it's quite concerning. But at the end of the day, I think this is a scenario where we all have to kind of get on board. You know what I mean? Just get on board for this little bit of time and hope for the best and support each other through it. I've always put myself out there, if somebody needs groceries or whatever else, like, this needs to be funneled down to a community level. Our governments are unable, unfortunately, they're showing their true colors. I'll say colors. They cannot control what's happening on the ground, and that's a fact. They can't control what's happening in a house between families, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's somebody losing their job, whether it's feeding a child, whether not having access to whatever it is. That is outside what they are able to do at this point, clearly. So I think this is more of a, how do we support each other? How do we kind of rally around each other? This tattoo guy, if this was some, I keep calling him a tattoo guy. That's so rude, but that's what I know him as.
He's a business owner.
But yeah, he's a business owner, and it would be nice if he had somewhere to go. Dude, I can't pay my grocery bill this month. Like, someone hit me up with $100, $200, and we could start kind of communally helping each other. I don't know what else we could say or do, because we don't have a solution to this. This is not a quick fix, and it's not going to end anytime soon. And in that period of time, we either all have to kind of get together and figure it out, right? Or we have to accept the fact that there's going to be a lot of loss, and it's going to be more than business loss. Families, children, people, homes, everything under the sun. I want to touch up on the privilege part because,
Because
yeah.
So, and I just want to touch on the fact, and I think I had this conversation again, I think last week, about, complaining about masks, right? Like, I get it. Nobody likes them. This is in my world, this is akin to this guy who's in jail for the like being a domestic terrorist, storming the Capitol, and he's crying because he can't get organic lunches in jail. In my world, this is what the mask situation seems like to me. Just wear a freaking mask for your own protection. Like, and my other issue with the mask issue is, and I don't want to really delve deep into this. I do have that panel on February 2nd. I will try to bring this part up. But for the mask situations, I think it's Bill 63 in Quebec, where wearing masks at that time, or wearing, when people were wearing hijabs or niqabs, blah, 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 that was a fear. Like, it was scary. Everybody, you can't see somebody's blah, blah, blah. They're going to kill you. Like, whatever it was. So I think that argument can now stop above and beyond. Don't pretend you are afraid of people and they're scary, or it's a safety issue. You are afraid of what's behind the mask. You are afraid of what you do not know behind that mask. Be honest. It's a racial thing. You think every brown person is a freaking terrorist. Sorry, that's what it is. And that's what your issue is. Call it out. Like, why are we tiptoeing around issues like this? I'm not going to. I choose not to. So for the mask issue, it's very layered. I think if we're going to be protective, I think let's just do the job. And if you're going to simply do the job, do it for the teachers and the nurses and the doctors who have no choice.
Agreed, 100%. And let's face it, we're still learning whether even if you've been infected and gotten over it, we're still learning whether you can still infect somebody else. So until we know that, don't be a jerk. Just be a mask to protect the people around you.
Yeah. And I'll say this again. I feel like it just comes down to, and like, I don't talk a lot about this, right? But for me, I always funnel down to, who you are as a person, what values and principles do you live by in your life? What did your ancestors teach you? What are your pillars? Like, what is your actual true belief system? If you believe that you are generally a good person, if you are going to protect yourself, but also protect others in any way, right? It doesn't matter if you're walking down the street and you move a bucket out of somebody's way, right? So if you just get over the ego part of it, why do I have to? Why should I? Blah, blah, blah. If you just funnel it down to, there's a group of people, there's unknowns. Let's just choose to be cautious, because that doesn't really harm anyone. What's going to harm everyone is if we roam around not wearing masks, and tomorrow it turns out that this is way bigger of an issue than we thought it was. I would rather be safe than sorry, and do it for other people. Good Lord. Just do it for other people. Come on. Okay, that's my. Oh, and I am going to apologize. I am going to jump off at noon. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. Love you. Susie. I like it. It'd be interesting because, your program, Save Manitoba Restaurants. I mean, restaurants are a huge part of our local economy. And, this has got to be killing them no matter anything. 2 weeks is like 2 months.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it is undeniably a challenging time for every business owner right now, for sure. And the thing that we need to realize, though, is that the sooner we can get our numbers under control, the sooner we can return to some kind of normal, you know, continuation of what we might have had in the summer, and the fact that so many people thought it was appropriate to, visit over the holiday season when we were specifically asked not to, and to limit our contacts is very disheartening. As we hear these numbers and listen to the presser with Dr. Rustin, it's just so unfortunate that some people did not heed that advice and went against that. And now, again, we're all going to pay for those mistakes. And, and it goes back to sort of, even the discussion that you were having earlier. There are consequences for everyone's actions. And we're trying to mitigate the effects of what we can during this pandemic. And when people make those poor choices, we have more risk factors to mitigate than less or fewer, however you want to say that.
Yeah. And then too, I guess for yourself, with the kids and family, I was kind of curious. I mean, what kind of conversations happened, since last week, and seeing everything on the news about what is happening down in the States, and
Yeah,
how do you
so
begin to explain it?
it's very challenging. Again, it depends what age your children are, right? And how aware they are about what's going on. But if your kids are on TikTok, or if they're on Snapchat or Instagram, they're definitely, seeing footage about what happened.
Mhm.
And I asked my kids, I said, like, have you seen stuff online? Do you have any questions? What is it that you would like to talk about? And so we had those conversations, and we talked about just personal responsibility in an age of, you know, that that level of chaos in
Mhm.
a country that, supposedly prides itself on law and order and all these things. And we have, what is it, we have 8 days till the inauguration, and literally every day I'm bracing myself for just horrible news to come out of there, right? And you're right, like every state capital is now on high alert because of, this January 6th event. And I'm sure they were on high alert before that as well. But they saw the plans and fruition come on January 6th. So they're bracing themselves for what could come. By no means do I pretend to have any solutions, but I just think that it is appalling, the state of affairs that everything is in, and the inequities that exist. And it is time for all of us. And again, you know what? We are not immune to this up here. You can look at the language that's coming out of the CPC federal party, and it's not a surprise. Okay. And whenever somebody talks about, what's happening in the States, we have our own homegrown domestic terrorists here. And, on Saturday, I was saying on Twitter, Ryan Thorpe of the Winnipeg Free Press had an amazing story come out over the summer on getting embedded with a group of white nationalists and discovering that terrorist who was trying to flee to the States, and there was a manhunt out for him because he was considered that dangerous. So we can't be smug and we can't be ignorant and think it's not happening here. It's absolutely happening here. So it is incumbent upon all of us to unequivocally denounce that kind of language, and to stand up for people who are being maligned for the color of their skin, or creed, or whatever, sexual orientation, all of those things. You know me, I have no patience for that. None. What you can tell by my face right now, no patience whatsoever.
What's interesting to me is that Germany fought 2 wars before they learned their lesson, right? And now they're one of the strongest proponents. I mean, you can't say that there's not still problems inside Germany, but they literally went to war twice, because the first time it wasn't strongly enough, there wasn't enough pushback, that it led to an even bigger problem. And I think that we can really see that here.
And I think it's really important, you know, there's a lot of pundits and legal scholars and everyone talking about how there cannot be reconciliation without justice. So justice must come first. And if you listen to Black leaders in the U.S. and even, you know, in South Africa, we have precedent for this. Same with the Nuremberg trials, all of these things. There cannot be resolution and healing without justice. Justice must come first.
Interesting. Linda, your thoughts?
I like that, Susie. Justice must come first. And my thoughts, well, they're kind of all over the place right now. You know, I appreciated what Jennifer was saying and Susie and Rana before that. My thoughts go to a great article I was reading on CNN about, you know, what you were saying, Susie, about justice and holding the people who, you know, stormed the Capitol accountable 100%, but holding the politicians who incited those people accountable as well. And I like to think of, you know, we talk a lot about the divisiveness of this current culture that we live in, and that's very true. And I don't like to be part of a culture that is finger pointing and it is othering. And for me, Susie, what, you know, you were speaking about very passionately about standing up for anti-racism and, you know, unequivocally denouncing anybody who is, you know, tied with white supremacy or any of the other forms of racism. There's, you know, white supremacy, which is overt, and then all the other ones underneath. Finger pointing to me means that you are not taking personal responsibility. It's saying all these other people are at fault, but not me. I play no role in this, and I don't believe that. I believe that our culture and our systemic values are based in white supremacy, and that especially in Canada, we have rampant racism that happens here. And I don't want to, I don't see that creating any great results to say it's other people who do this, it's other countries who do this, like you were saying as well. It's not, it's here. We all live in the system. We've all been brought up in the same system, and we are all personally responsible for it. That said, when I look at those people in the States who were rioting and who were terrorists to the Capitol building, there is a part of me that understands where they came from. These are people who were fed lies, who were fed, you know, indoctrinated that they were the patriots. They were the ones that needed to take charge. They were the ones who were protecting their country. And you can see how it led to what the actions they took. I mean, I still do believe that they need to take personal responsibility and be held accountable in justice, but I'm all for going after the leaders who are inciting this kind of mentality in people. Like it's absolutely the responsibility of the government to take, you know, to charge the people responsible. You know, yeah, justice for sure needs to happen, and then healing. But I'm like the rest of you, though. I'm on edge and braced to see what's happening in the next couple weeks in the US and how it affects Canadians as well. So, yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you sort of, I guess, on the same vein, but maybe not, but it deals with your line of work. You're a life coach, business coach. Have you come across, and how would you broach, say, a client that definitely has some political, you know, values or whatever that maybe doesn't, you know, coincide or mesh? Because, you know, when you get to know someone, usually politics and religion, usually, I mean, you know, they tend to come up, especially in your line of work where you're trying to learn more about the person and everything. And women are different too than men.
Well, see, I mean, if people are working with me as a one-on-one life coach, you begin your, there's two things. You have usually a consult call to see if you're a good fit for each other,
Right.
and see if you are, if I think that I can help that person, but also, and so would I take on somebody who had that completely different ideology? No,
No.
I just wouldn't. That's one of the joys of owning your own business. I get to choose, who I work with. But at the same time, one of the things of coaching is practicing non-judgment, and you're sitting with people, helping them through their processes. So you're providing a safe space for people to work out their thoughts and their feelings. So I would say, yeah, it's no, I wouldn't, and take on a client who had that completely different ideology as me. But one of the things that I committed to last year, when all of the Black Lives Matter stuff became so apparent in the news, I made a commitment myself that I would not, as a life coach and as a speaker, sit on panels or take on speaking gigs that were not representative and diverse. And I've actually had to turn down a couple when people have said, would you like to speak on this, with this group? And I'll just say, is it diverse? That's part of my thing. And they'll be like, we're hoping to get there. And I'll be like, no, sorry, that's my commitment as what I can do in my business, is to say, no, I will not speak on, in workshops where it's only white. That's something that I personally can do. It's an action step that I can take that ensures that that we're hearing from more people than just people who look like me.
No, and that's so great. I mean, if anything, that's a great life lesson to learn, and something that we can all kind of embrace too as well. And it's opening doors, right? And it's opening our thinking. And you've always got such amazing ideas and stuff. So it's great that you can share now with a bigger audience. So
Well, and that's why I appreciate being on this panel. Tracy, that's something that is so important to you with the Hue crew, to make sure that it's diverse and that you're hearing from all sorts of different people. And I think that's just that aligns so much with my values. So I appreciate what you're doing for the Hue crew.
Well, no, it's all of you ladies that come to the table. So I'm going to open it to Kirsten and Charlotte, because they always come together and they always, spill off their thoughts. So I'm just going back to the whole family thing, because you two, that's your line of work, that's your baby. And I was thinking about that. I asked Susie the question on how she addressed everything that was happening to her kids. Now, first of all, we had to address this pandemic, isolation, masks, and all of these restrictions, and can't see grandma. And now you're seeing this violence, like right in your face, like no regard, total disrespect. We've talked about how it's affecting the economy and the business, but how is this now going to affect the family unit? And even how do we talk to our own kids? I mean, yeah, we're in Canada, but no, they're very close neighbors. And like Susie and Rana and Jennifer said, I mean, it's all bleeding through. So I was just wondering, and yeah, I would like some guidance on that too. Who wants to go first? Charlotte?
Oh my goodness, Tracy, you've given us a huge topic. I was, because I always take some notes in this, and Rana started to touch a little bit on what are your pillars, and Kirsten and I talk a lot in families. What are your family's pillars, as well as what are yours? So really spending some time doing some discussion with your family around what's important to you, what are your values, and you can start to draw in those pieces around the mask, around keeping your family safe, around the importance of spending time just in our little bubble so we can eventually see our grandparents, which we care about. So really cementing what's important as your family unit. And that's a really great exercise as well, going into, again, something that Rana touched on, is when those biases in your family start to come out. And Rana was talking about, before masks, people fearful of brown people in their traditional dress, and they were actually scared. So really starting to have conversations with your family around what are some of those biases that may be coming up, that even if you say we don't have any biases, everybody has biases. And I'll say one to you: puppies or kittens, that's a bias. Beach holiday, mountain holiday, those are biases. So when people say that they don't have any, challenge them on that, and encourage dialogue with your children around what that looks like. Part of our peer training is we really make our participants take hard looks at their biases and their values, and to be able to hold those neutral spaces when you're supporting people. Kirsten and I work with a lot of families from backgrounds that are so completely different to ours. Our commonality with them is that we're all parents or we're families, but and how to hold a space when your belief systems are so different, and keeping your own biases and your own belief systems, your own agendas at check. Throughout this conversation today, Kirsten and I were, back and forth a little bit on when biases were coming up, for all of us, and around the white privilege. White privilege is a huge part of our training as well. Look at our group here. We're all very privileged in living in Canada, privileged in living in Winnipeg, privileged in being part of this, privileged in where we grew up. Like, all of those things we have to take into account. Robin wrote a quote on Facebook not a quote, she just put out there, "Thank God I'm living in Canada," and she got backlash of white privilege. And she was like, whoa, I teach this part, and now I'm being, outed for being of white privilege. And so she addressed that on her Facebook. So just looking at that. Kristen, I'm going to turn it over to you because I love your In This Family talk. So I'm going to put it on that one for you.
Well, that's a hard one to follow, Charlotte, because you really kind of hit on so many valid points there, and really the heart of what we work with when we're working with families who are struggling with mental health issues in their family. But yeah, my head goes to, I have adult children, one lives at home and one doesn't. And my head goes to the opportunity for great conversation. And not only to talk to your adult children or your teenagers to hear your voice, but to actually talk in a way that through curious communication, that you actually foster communication and really kind of get where everybody's coming from. And I love what a great conversation to have at the dinner table, the biases. Well, I don't have biases, puppies or kittens. Like, we all have them, and we need to check in with them more now than ever. One of the things Charlotte talks about, I love using the quote, "In this family." And in my family story, going back in time when we were really struggling with hard times regarding mental health in our family, I had one of my daughters often challenge me on what was happening, and or jumping ship, leaving the island. And I would say, hey, in this family, we show up. Or if one of my daughters, because of the chaos that was happening, was being really judgmental or hard on the other, or any of us, would be like, hey, in this family, this is our safe place. This is where we can have conversations and we don't have judgment. And for whatever reason, my kids heard that at a time that was critical, loud and clear. And they'll say that was actually something that kind of kept us all in check, because it also wasn't isolating an individual on their behavior or their input. It was like, whoa, like we're all in this, and here's how our expectations for all of us are. So that's something we talk about often. Who would have thought I'd be when I was saying it way back then, that I'd be in the role that I am today. But one of the things that I keep going to is, I was thinking of what Linda said, and I have to say my heart actually breaks for a lot of people who were enticed by people in power, our politicians in the States who were fed false truths, who were found themselves caught up in a swirl that they actually believed wholeheartedly and had no idea that, I mean, not in all cases, but I think there's some really sad stories. And there's federal prosecution that's going to come out of that. And I think perhaps there's a lot of sadness that happened at the hands of people that you trusted and were in positions of power. And so many individuals got hurt on both sides because of that, all sides, and some really nasty people too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not letting anyone off the hook, but that's where I really hope those people are truly the ones that pay for this horrific event. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go quickly, Susie, because
Oh, good, because I was going to say something.
yes, good. I just you're very small, on my screen, but I could see you. Your screen just lit up. No, yeah, I'm gonna go to you, and you can continue on your thought, and then I have a question for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, what Kirsten was saying is really important, I think, because I think that, it doesn't matter what kind of government, is in place necessarily, in the sense that we have to understand that real change takes place on a micro level. Okay, so all change, like Kristen said, in this family. Okay, so in this family, you can expand that to in this neighborhood, in this community. All change must start at that level. It's never going to start at the macro level. Okay, it will only change when we embrace and start to build in our community. There's that saying, if you want to change the world, start with yourself. It's the same thing, right? So until we acknowledge and embrace that idea, and that starts with, how we fund our schools, how we treat, our homeless population, all of these inequities that we see in our communities and in our neighborhood, they will never be solved on a bigger level until we attempt to solve them on a smaller level. Now, obviously, funding and all those things can come from a macro level, but it's about the sentiment and the intent that we have around making that change. And that has to start at a grassroots level. And if we want to see change come, in a bigger way, we need to start looking, next door and across the street, and all those tangible ways that we can, elect politicians who want to affect that change and who will make our communities better, as opposed to leaders who are full of, ego and rhetoric. They're not in it for anybody but themselves. And we've heard talk like that as well this week, talking about, remember when public service was about public service? You were there to serve a community. You were there to serve the public. I don't think we're seeing that from a lot of elected officials these days. And that's something that we really need to bring back.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I'll come back to you, Susie, on something else. But Jennifer, then that spills me into what will the new politician look like moving forward? And like Susie says, it's not going to change overnight, but he's laughing. Hey, maybe you'll run. Maybe Rana will run. I mean, Susie, anyone, Linda, I would vote for any of these women for mayor or premier. But your perspective on what the new candidate will look like moving forward?
Well, I think we have a great responsibility to outline what that candidate is going to look like. Because again, it's to Susie's point, it's they don't, I mean, they know their own minds, but they get their marching orders from us. We tell them by how much we vote, by how much we give them money, by how much we share our opinions. That's how you affect change. And it is grassroots, and sometimes it can be can seem tedious because you're having to keep going back to that well, especially with the some parties that keep changing leaders. Not calling anyone out, but you have to keep having that conversation, and unfortunately, it's not yet sticking. But the I think this is a great opportunity for us. In one way, I'm not being naive, but I think this is a great opportunity for us to look at how we live in our communities, in our homes, in our cities, and say, what is no longer acceptable? Well, you mentioned homelessness. This has been a problem for some time. We've got quite a bit of square footage right now that is empty. Can that be used for a different purpose? Can we think just a little bit differently about how we support those people who have been affected the most in this kind of an environment? Can we do that? And in doing that, can we create other opportunities? Because it's not about charity. It's not about any of that. Like, take all those ego words out of there and say, what can I do to help the people that are around me? Because let's face it, all of us are in this community, and whether that is the neighborhood, the city, the country, we have to stand up.
Mhm.
And what I mean is stand up for one another.
Right. No, so true. Well, maybe we can start here. I love that because there are lots of empty spaces, lots of empty buildings. Well, they just released that article that there were all these incredible plans that were just put on the shelf. And that was including vacant buildings, making that more space for, whether it's to move the seniors that were affected by COVID or anything like that, the off-spill. They were thinking about students helping in the seniors' homes and stuff like that, and all of these other, bringing in the community to help and looking at all of these things, and the government turned their back on it. And when they should have been actually probably working on something like this in the summer, when we were, kind of riding a little bit of a free wave there, they should have been building and working on this, because it was happening in the States and across, in England and everything. It was affecting the old and the elderly. So I don't know. It'll be interesting times moving forward. But I really appreciate you joining us, Jennifer. I think you're going to be our political pundit. You can come
Thank you.
in.
I really do appreciate the invitation. It was so much fun. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's been so interesting. Well, and Susie, lastly, I mean, I'm getting back to family again. And, Charlotte and Kirsten have, thank you, ladies, because those were all great, solid ideas. And we tend to forget that when we're sitting with our family, yes, in isolation and seeing the same faces for the last, I don't know, over 150 days. Right? But moving forward, and okay, so once the restrictions are out, we'll probably go to code orange. What will code orange look like? Will we only be allowed 2 more people in our household, or are we going to be just opening our doors and running out in freedom, which would be great, but I doubt it. How do you control those kind of feelings and anxieties in the family way too, Susie, but then also, your own personal too, because you've been separated from your own parents, and it was a decision too. Those moments when we can get together, and again, is it okay, you can't hug, or or you got to keep your mask on, which we know is I appreciate that too.
So going back to the mask conversation before, if you've seen the videos of how much hot air and moist talking we do to each other, I might never take off that mask ever again. I can't believe that I used to let people just breathe on me. That is appalling. Have you seen how much moisture just comes out of your mouth, even just from talking? Oh my gosh, it's too much, especially when you think about someone at work or in the store who might have had a cough, near you, and they're just breathing on you, asking you questions. Nope, I'm not doing that again. So I'll be wearing a mask, I think, for a while, or at least keeping my distance from people I don't want talking moistly on me. But anyway, you know what? I think that we're going to have a roaring 20s, eventually. When this is all over, there will be celebration, and there will be, jubilation, and there will be hopefully a lot of good change to come out of this. And hopefully we can understand that investing in science and in research and development is a very good thing for the world's population, because that's how we got to the point where we can have a vaccine this early. And hopefully we will see young people be turned on to careers in science and in healthcare and in microbiology and infectious diseases and all these things that will help, immediate future things. I'm I'm going to go out on a limb here actually and predict that there's going to be sort of maybe two things that will happen. So one will be that, you know, people will continue on as if, I don't want to say nothing happened, but as if they are able to get back to normal quite easily. And then I think there's going to be another group of people, of which I think I might be a part of, where the idea of getting together with people seems great, but in reality will be actually quite stress-filled and anxiety filled. And the reason I say that is because if you're the type of person who sits there watching old TV shows and old concert footage and goes, wow, I can't believe we used to do that. If you think about how sensory deprived we've been over the last, you know, almost a year now. So even I've read people saying on Twitter and stuff that they go in the car and they get car sick because their body's not used to moving at more than a walking or running pace, depending on how fast you can run on a treadmill, I guess. But there's a lot of adjustment we're going to have to make psychologically and emotionally to being in crowds again and being with other people again. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there is definitely going to be an adjustment period for some people. And so there's going to be, you know, an adjustment period. And who knows how long that will be. You know, maybe it will be a little while, maybe it'll be a long while, but there's going to be some getting used to normal again.
Okay. Wow. So, well, a lot to take in today. But it's been, you know, again, so many different opinions, but so many helpful, meaningful things to take in. And as we sit here and wait another week or so, or no, I guess it's a week and a half, I don't know, and see what our marching orders, so to speak, are from there. But you know what, I want to, again, thank you all for sharing and caring. These conversations, like I said, are very meaningful, and I'm so happy that we can all kind of come together. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Again, anytime. The Zoom chat, the Zoom link is the same bat channel, same bat time. And yeah, so we'll see you all next week. And yeah, check out Linda's Instagram, obviously the puppy. Oh, your puppy is so cute. And Charlotte, did you get Archie?
Archie is now officially in our family.
Oh,
and we're settling in the puppy stage. So it's very busy.
Yes, but no, yes. So Linda has a great little thing, and yeah, I'd love to have an assistant that would be knocking on my door at 9 a.m. with a cup of coffee. But
that's the entrepreneurial fantasy. I don't know. I run through that sometimes in my head. I just picture like having this full-time assistant that shows up with coffee in hand, and then they handle all of the little glitches that happen throughout the day. And I just kind of sit back and like just say, you know, okay, I just need this report, and they hand it to me. I don't know. It's just like, oh yeah.
You sit back and say your profound words, right?
Exactly.
That's the perfect life. Oh my goodness. See, we all wish for it. But anyways, well, you have everybody a happy Tuesday. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you all next week. Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Tracy. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.